I was just driving through the streets of London at night. Music played softly, my thoughts drifting far away. Just an ordinary day, nothing special. Then suddenly, blue lights flashed in the mirror. A siren. 2 police cars cut me off and forced me to stop. My heart sank. One of the officers leaned down to my window, his voice sharp and dry. "Where are you from?" "Australia," I answered, trying to sound calm. They exchanged a look. Then, without hesitation, they ordered me out of the car. The street was empty, neon signs reflecting on the wet asphalt. One of them leaned closer and hissed, "Pray we don't find anything illegal in your car, you filthy N***R. Otherwise tonight's the end of you." The cold metal of the hood pressed into my chest as they slammed me against the car. My wrists burned as the handcuffs clicked shut. My pulse hammered in my ears. "Check the trunk," one of them barked. I twisted my head, straining to see. A second officer popped the trunk, rummaging inside. He didn't even bother to hide it. I caught the glint of a small plastic bag in his hand before he shoved it under the seat. "Got it," he announced. His voice was triumphant, rehearsed. The first officer smirked at me, his teeth shining under the streetlights. "Congratulations. You're done." My throat tightened. "That's not mine. You put that there." But the night didn't care. The city didn't care. And neither did they. The sirens wailed again as they dragged me into the back of the cruiser, the whole world flashing red and blue through the smeared glass. That was the night everything changed. That was the night I stopped believing in justice. And the night I began planning my revenge. The courtroom smelled like dust, paper, and stale coffee. I sat there in a gray prison jumpsuit, wrists still raw from the cuffs. My lawyer, a tired man with thinning hair, whispered, "Just keep calm. We'll handle this." But I already knew how this would go. The officers took the stand one after another, their lies polished and flawless. They spoke about a routine stop, about how my nervous behavior gave them reason to search, about how they discovered the drugs under my seat. The jury nodded. The judge barely looked at me. When my lawyer tried to argue, he was drowned out by evidence. Photographs of the drugs, my fingerprints on the bag, prints that were never mine but fabricated. Every word cut deeper, painting me as a criminal, a liar, a threat. When I stood up to speak, my voice trembled. "I didn't do this. They planted it. They—" "Sit down," the judge snapped, gavel slamming. I looked at the faces in the jury. Cold and different. To them I wasn't a man. I was just another statistic. Another black defendant. The verdict came faster than I expected. Guilty. The word echoed in my skull. The officers smirked in the back of the room, like wolves watching their prey fall. I was sentenced to 10 years. As the guards led me away, the world blurred. But inside, beneath the despair, something else was growing. A fire. I whispered to myself, "This isn't the end. This is where it starts." Prison wasn't just bars and concrete. It was a world built on power, fear, and silence. The first night, I lay on a thin mattress, staring at the ceiling, listening to the distant echo of screams and laughter. The air smelled of sweat, bleach, and rust. Every morning began the same. The clang of doors, the bark of guards, the shuffle of chains. I learned quickly, in here weakness was blood in the water. At first I kept to myself, ate my food in silence, walked the yard alone. But eyes followed me everywhere. Some curious, some hungry, some hateful. One day a group of inmates cornered me in the yard. Big men, tattoos crawling up their necks. The leader, a bald man with dead eyes, smirked. "New meat," he said. "You're ours now." I clenched my fists, ready to fight even if it meant losing. But before it could start, another man stepped in. Tall, broad, with scars across his knuckles. A quiet storm in his eyes. "Not him," he growled. The others hesitated, then backed off. Later, in the mess hall, he sat across from me. "Name's Marcus," he said. "I don't like bullies." "You." That was the start. Marcus wasn't just any inmate. He had connections. He knew how things worked. The guards who could be bribed, the gangs who ran the cells, the hidden economy of smuggled goods. He'd been inside for 15 years, and in that time he'd built an empire behind bars. With Marcus I survived. More than that, I learned how to read people, how to wait, how to strike when the time was right. Years passed like this. I carved muscles from stone walls and rage. I trained my body, sharpened my mind, buried my old self. But I never forgot the night it began. The blue lights. The smirk of those officers. The gavel slamming. Every day in prison I repeated the same promise in my head. When I get out they'll pay. And one night, Marcus leaned in close, his voice a whisper. You want revenge? I know people. Outside. Dangerous people. The kind who finish what you can't. That was the first time I heard of the cleaner. A man with no name. A ghost. A killer for hire who never failed. And I knew, when the bars finally opened, I wouldn't walk out free. I'd walk out ready. The day finally came. The gates opened with a groan and I stepped out, a free man by law but not by spirit. The world outside felt strange, louder, faster, brighter. I breathed in the cold London air and it burned in my lungs like fire. Marcus was still inside, but before I left, he pressed a folded piece of paper into my hand. Call this number, he said. Tell him Marcus sent you. He'll know. That night I sat in a cheap motel room staring at the paper. My hands trembled, but not from fear, from hunger. The hunger for justice. For revenge. Finally I dialed. The line clicked. A voice, low and steady, answered. Who is this? Marcus sent me, I said. Silence. Then a chuckle. Marcus, that old bastard still breathing? Good. So you're the one looking for payback? Yes, I whispered. They framed me. Took years of my life. I want them gone. The voice hardened. Names? Details. Everything you know. I gave him everything. The badge numbers, the faces, the nights replayed in my head 1,000 times. The ones who pulled me from the car. The ones who planted the bag. The one who smiled as the judge said guilty. The cleaner listened in silence. Then finally. Meet me tomorrow. Docklands. Midnight. Come alone. Click. I didn't sleep. I sat in the dark, going over every scar the years had carved into me. Tomorrow was the first step. Tomorrow the hunt would begin. Docklands at midnight was a graveyard of steel and water. Fog curled around the warehouses. The Thames lapped at the shore like something alive. He appeared out of the mist, tall, lean, dressed in black. A face you'd forget the second you turned away. That was his gift. You're early, he said. You're real, I replied. He smiled faintly. Marcus said you were smart. And angry. Good combination. But anger without control? Useless. We walked along the pier. He tested me, asked questions, studied my eyes, my stance, the weight of my words. He wanted to know if I was serious or just another bitter man with a story. Finally he stopped. You don't just want them dead. You want them destroyed. Public. Loud. Final. That's harder. But not impossible. I want the world to see what they did, I said. I want their names dragged through the dirt the way they dragged mine. The cleaner's smile widened, but his eyes stayed cold. Then we start with the weakest. Break the chain from the bottom up. Fear spreads faster than bullets. He handed me a phone. When I call, you answer. When I tell you to move, you move. No questions. If you can't do that, walk away now. I gripped the phone. My pulse hammered. I'm not walking away. The cleaner's gaze cut through me like glass. Then he nodded. Good. Then your war begins tonight. The cleaner worked like a ghost. Within a week, he had gathered files, photos, and movements of the first cop, Officer Bradley. I remembered him well. The smug grin, the way he tossed the bag of white powder onto my seat like it was a joke. He was the one who called me boy like I was less than human. Bradley was easy prey. He'd left the force 2 years ago after health issues. The truth? He was drowning in gambling debts, desperate for quick money. He still wore the same cheap leather jacket, still drove the same beat-up Ford. A man who thought he was invisible. The cleaner slid a folder across the table in the motel room. Here. He's weak. Broke. He drinks every night at the Crown, a pub on the East End. Talks too much when he's drunk. We start with him. I opened the folder, staring at the face that had haunted me for years. My stomach tightened. Rage burned, but there was fear too. The fear of crossing a line I could never come back from. The cleaner studied me. You want justice? Then justice has to bleed. Decide now. Are you ready? I clenched my fist. The years in prison, the nights I prayed someone would believe me, the faces of the cops laughing as they cuffed me, they all came rushing back. I'm ready. That night we waited outside the Crown. Fog drifted through the streets, yellow street lamps casting sickly halos. I sat in the passenger seat, my palms sweaty, my breath shallow. Bradley stumbled out of the pub around midnight, drunk and loud. He argued with a cab driver, then staggered toward his car. The cleaner leaned forward. This is it. You don't get another first strike. Make it count. I got out of the car. My legs felt heavy, but each step grew stronger. Bradley didn't even notice me until I was standing right in front of him. His eyes narrowed. Do I know you? Yes, I said. My voice was low, steady. You ruined my life. Before he could speak, before he could even smirk, I grabbed him by the collar and slammed him against the car. The metal shook. His drunken confidence dissolved instantly, fear flashing in his eyes. Please, he started. I pressed my mouth close to his ear. Tell me, who gave the order? Who told you to plant it? He choked, trembling. It wasn't me. I just followed orders. It was Sergeant Miller. Miller runs everything. The cleaner stepped out of the shadows, silent, like death itself. He gave me a nod. A signal. Bradley's words had sealed his fate. Bradley's scandal shook the department. But the rot went deeper. Next on my list, Sergeant Miller. The one who called me a slur while laughing as the cuffs tightened. The one who told me, your life's over, boy. Cleaner traced Miller's routine. Late-night poker games with dirty money, debts to gangsters he pretended to police. The plan was simple, feed his sins back to the wolves. We sat in an abandoned warehouse, Cleaner's laptop glowing in the dark. We won't just ruin him, Cleaner said. We'll make him beg for mercy from the same people he used to own. That night, we dropped Miller's gambling records into the hands of the very gang he'd been robbing blind. Photos, accounts, numbers, all tied to him. The fallout was immediate. 2 nights later, Miller staggered out of a poker game with a black eye, missing teeth, and whispers spread across the city. The sergeant was broke, beaten, humiliated. I watched from the shadows as he stumbled to his car, muttering to himself. His uniform couldn't protect him anymore. 2 down, Cleaner said beside me. The dominoes are falling. But my chest still burned. Because the head of the snake was still untouched. Chief Donovan. He wasn't just a cop. He was the cop. The man who gave the order to frame me. The one who smiled on TV, calling me a dangerous criminal who threatened public safety. And behind that smile, he shook hands with businessmen, pocketed bribes, and turned justice into a weapon. Donovan is untouchable, Cleaner warned. He's got politicians, judges, the press. You don't topple a man like that with evidence. Then how? I asked. Cleaner leaned forward, his voice dropping. You kill the king, the empire shatters. For the first time, the idea of blood didn't scare me. It thrilled me. Cleaner introduced me to a man known only as Darius. He was tall, silent, skin like midnight, eyes like cold fire. A mercenary, once a soldier, now a ghost. They used your race to break you, Cleaner said. Now you'll use your brother to end them. Darius said nothing. Just checked his pistol, nodded, and waited. The plan was brutal, direct. Donovan was scheduled to attend a charity gala. Expensive suits, flashing cameras, crystal champagne. His safe world. But not for long. I stood across the street from the gala watching limousines pull up one by one. Music floated out, laughter echoing. Donovan arrived in a navy suit, smiling, shaking hands, bathing in attention. My fists clenched. Darius slipped through the back, silent as smoke. Security meant nothing to him. Cameras went dark, guards vanished into silence. Then the moment came. Donovan raised a glass on stage, beginning one of his polished speeches. A single shot cracked through the hall. The glass shattered. So did his chest. Chaos exploded. People screamed, ducked, stampeded. Donovan fell to the floor, blood soaking his perfect suit. And through the chaos the cameras still rolled. The whole city saw their hero die live. By morning the headlines read, Police Chief Assassinated at Gala. Scandal, corruption allegations surface. Everything collapsed. Investigations dug into the department's crimes. Bradley's scandal resurfaced. Miller's debts exposed. The empire Donovan built turned to dust. And me? I wasn't hunted anymore. I was invisible. My name, once dragged through mud, now whispered like a ghost story. The man who was framed, destroyed, and came back with vengeance. I sat in a diner days later, sipping black coffee. Cleaner slid into the booth across from me. It's done, he said. I nodded. The taste of victory was bitter but real. Outside the world went on. Cars, laughter, life. Nobody knew me. Nobody cared. And that was perfect. For the first time in years I smiled. Revenge doesn't bring peace. It doesn't heal. But it balances the scales. And when the world tries to bury you, sometimes the only way out is to dig graves of your own.